A very good afternoon to all of you. My name is Chetna Kaith, and I'm from WWF India. And I would like to welcome you all to the session 10 of ICSE 2021. We will be covering Nature Connect and informal education in this session. The agenda of today's session will be pretty easy and it will be very simple. We have kept it very simple. We will go through a brief overview of the session. We have a very interesting trail for you all to watch. As the session is all about Nature Connect, we thought, why don't we take you on a trail virtually? We will do a quick introduction of what is Nature Connect, why is it important, and how we can, what are the various tools, which are simple to do, which the educators or or any organization or any school administration can adopt in their school or at home. Then we will move on into nature-based solutions and understand how we can integrate them into the education. And finally, we will move on to the key conclusions and discussions. So to begin the session, may I please welcome Ms. Radhika Suri, Director Education of WWF India.
Okay, thank you, Chetna. A very good afternoon to all of you, and it's a pleasure to be here. And we have a very interesting topic to talk about, which is Nature Connect. And it happens to be my favorite too. Well, the story of it is really funny, and it started when I was a little girl. I had, my father was obsessed about nature. And he felt that, it was very, very important to stay connected with nature. And therefore, what he did to me on school days, which will sound like pure torture, but even on school days, he woke me up at 4 o'clock and we trudged, and he took me for walks. And as we walked, he used to keep talking about, look at this tree, look at that insect, and, he used to keep pointing things out. And I used to live in a place, Goa, where, it rains a lot. And when the monsoons came, it's really heavy rains. I was like thrilled. I said, 4 months and I'm going to have so much of fun now. No morning walks, no nature for me. But he came and he put on the light and he had got these giant umbrellas and we were again ready to go. And on the way, he says what he loves were the frogs and the ants. You know how fast the ants, when it stops raining, the activity you see was fascinating. And that was what happened in those 4 months. At that time, I didn't realize, it was such a burden. I didn't know what my father was doing. But what I today realize is he left me a legacy. He left me such an important, purpose and an understanding that, we humans, live in harmony with, live with nature and should coexist with nature. And also he gave me so much of, energy that I'm able to draw every day in my life because I'm connected with nature. So I think so that's enough of my story, because I'm 100% sure that, Nature Connect just doesn't, mean looking at nature and just saying, it's beautiful. It's so much more deeper. And I think so let's deep dive into a nature trail together. So everybody, yes, we've got a very exciting nature trail for you. It's for around 6-7 minutes. Observe it carefully. And then when we are back, we'll see how did you feel. So over to you, Chetna.
I will quickly reshare my screen. Give me 1 second.
Hi there, I'm WWF India's naturalist, and today I'm going to be taking you on an adventure into the jungle. So let's learn about your local biodiversity. Just have that enthusiasm, that excitement that we're learning something new. Come along and join me. So let me tell you a story. I had this colleague of mine whose name was Ayon Day. One day it was Ayon's birthday and I thought of calling him in a very different way Just try and repeat the actions that I'm doing. Hold your nose, tilt your head a bit, and loudly shout, "Ayon! Ayon! Ayon!" And that's how you shall get the sound of your Indian peafowl, which is also your national bird. How wonderful! Now these birds are your very social jungle babblers. You can also call them your 7 brothers or 7 sisters, because you'll often see them in a group of 6 to 7. Now when they are in a group, they would often make this chattering sound like a chatterbox. They would make this sound of chi 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 chi. They love to seek attention. So if you're not paying attention, this bird will give you a warning. Hey, you're not listening to me. Hey, 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 hey. Purely magical. This is your jungle karonda. It has about 7 petals. What a fruitful smell. Beautiful. You will often hear this bird singing out loud to you during the rainy season. It's called the brain fever bird. So if you actually try and break the lyrics of this sound, it will sound something similar to true 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 brain fever, brain fever, brain fever, and you can hear it right now. Now we are going to meet the architects of nature. These architects are the Baya weavers. Striking golden yellow are the males in their breeding season. These guys have a tough task to do. They are supposed to weave their nest using the fresh grass blades. Now the male has to completely make a nice basket kind of nest, and then he invites the females, fluttering his wings like this and singing out loud that come visit me at my place. But it's magical to just see the males sitting on the complete nest and fluttering out, making some nice sounds to attract the female. So it's something like chi 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 chi. This, my friend, is an oriental garden lizard. Now this guy is completely covered by scales. Now what are these scales actually made up of? They're made up of the same material that our fingernails are made up of. It's called the keratin. Now these guys will also be able to change their body color based on their moods. The beautiful oriental garden lizard. Now this master of camouflage is called the jungle nightjar. These are typical insect feeding birds, and they may not have a very impressive or a stunning beak like maybe other birds do, but these guys have a very blunt small beak, which once they open it, it's more like a bug net. So let's meet a feathered friend, this beautiful Indian pitta, and try and count the different number of colors that you can see in the bird. Well, I can see a red, I can see a blue, something like a skin color. I can see the black stripe around the eye. Try and guess more. That's your task. Well, what you see here is a very unusual and a rare moment. Both of them look very different in the colors. The one looks exactly like a plain tiger, and the other is like a Danid eggfly male. It's actually the Danid eggfly female which is mimicking the plain tiger in order to survive. The interesting part here is that because plain tigers are considered toxic, they are often avoided by a lot of predators. And that is one mimicry or a defense mechanism in butterflies that you can actually see if you're really silent in nature and really lucky. This tree is a very common native tree around us, and we are often known to worship this tree. You can simply call it the people tree. But remember, it's not P-E-O-P-L-E, but it's the P with double E, P-A-L. Now if you see this leaf, it looks more like the spade with a really long ponytail. And that's how you actually identify the people tree, by looking at its leaf. Remember that almost every native tree will always have its medicinal properties. So when you are planting a tree, remember it is a must to plant a native tree around you. What you see here are actually nature's choco chips. Well, you don't have to actually try one, because this is the poop of the nilgai. You can also call it the blue bull, which is Asia's largest antelope. Poop in wildlife has its own benefits to nature. Now the major benefit here is that the nilgai poop will help in the seed dispersal of many plants around, and that's how it flourishes and encourages the growth of nature and its ecosystem around. Look at this little lemon pansy. As soon as you start sweating and there's good amount of sunlight coming onto you, it seems to be a good perching site for the butterfly, and it's getting enough salts from me. I'm going to try and get it onto my hand. Oops.
Alright, so attracting butterflies towards you is a game of patience. Don't directly try and catch a butterfly, because the wings of the butterfly are very sensitive, and if you touch them, you may end up taking off the wing completely.
And see the club shaped antenna that it has, and hence you can actually say that it's a butterfly. I'm just taking another casual walk with the lemon pansy. I have not tried to capture the butterfly, I have not tried to catch hold of the butterfly. It's just patience. Alright, so remember, a lot of times the tree bark is often important in identifying the particular tree. Now, don't forget to also try this activity. When you are next to a tree, just take a paper, just take a pen or a pencil, and just try and trace how the bark texture is. If you don't have any of them, just thank the trees around you for helping you in providing oxygen. So you can give them a nice hug. Do remember that you wear your right shoes when you are in nature. You will feel thirsty, so do carry a bottle of water with you wherever you go, and ensure that it is not a plastic one, and nature will give back the best possible experiences to you, and you will have a great adventure. The brain fever is continuously calling out to me, so it seems like he doesn't want me to go home. I hope you've had a great adventure today, and until next time, thank you.
So I hope everybody had a really nice and a refreshing nature trail. In the Q&A box, I would love you to share what was your special moment in the nature trail and how are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling refreshed, and my favorite is the the jungle babblers, the seven sisters. It always amuses me so much. So it'll be great to hear from my audience. What are y'all thinking? What did you enjoy? How are you feeling? And did you like anything? So do share your question in the question and answer, and not in the chat, in the Q&A section. Okay, I can't hear anybody's. I can't see anything coming. Okay, it would be really nice to hear, how did you feel in the nature trail? Okay, we can't get any responses, so I will just assume you all had fun, lots and lots of fun, and all of you found a favorite moment in the nature trail. So moving on, I would like to, talk to you about what is Nature Connect. And, in this, we'll kind of explore what is Nature Connect. Do we really think it's important? So in the beginning, I did tell you that, I feel since I was immersed in nature, my life is very different. And I do feel that it is special because of what I was, taught as a child. So we'll explore, is there some science behind it? Is there some, research behind it? And is there some real benefit of this? And where are we today? So Dr. E.O. Wilson, has a hypothesis called biophilia, where he says that humans have an innate tendency to connect with nature. We have always lived close to nature, and for our survival, we've always reached out to nature, whether it is food, whether it was shelter, whether it was water. We kept connecting with nature, and therefore there is a very close connection of nature and us, and it's abnormal to separate us. So there is an absolute connection. And he also goes on to say that, when we connect with nature, we experience fun. We feel more relaxed, we feel happier. And when we are out in nature, we become more sociable. So there is a lot that happens when we connect with nature. And we are also known to be much, much happier. Chetna, can I have, yeah. So I remember, when we started our Nature Connect programs in WWF, I remember our first trail. This parent, came and registered their child. So it was a full family going out on a nature trail. And the child kept sitting with his iPad, and he was like, I don't know where you're taking me. And, I'm having so much of fun in my iPad. Well, I don't know why I'm going on this nature trail. But the parents had a belief that, this was essential for the child. What happened, after that one nature trail, the child, after a week, wrote to us saying, my iPad is boring. Nature is so fascinating. So that's the power of, a Nature Connect program. It absolutely gives you a different kind of experience of awe. Nobody, in Delhi, hardly anybody knows that, it is the second largest bird-rich capital in the world. So many of us actually missing the fun of this city, right? So there's so much that is there, and there is, these are the kind of experiences we feel when we are in close connect with nature. There are countries, like Finland and, places where people have a lot of nature connect. And there is enough research to say that children who have been in connect with nature are much healthier because they are physically, they go out into nature. Chitna, can I have my next slide, please? They are much healthier. They're very physically active. Um, they have better eating habits. They have better eyesight. So while technology does bring in a lot of benefit, but definitely connecting with nature makes children much healthier. It also makes them smarter because when you even see something out in nature, you start thinking about it, you're creative about it. You need so much and focus and such high observation power when you're out in nature. So children who have been out in nature are much more smarter. And in fact, it is also known that they do better academically, and they are definitely less stressed. They have better social skills, and they're very empathetic. So this is what the world today needs. We need children who have a high empathy, and that's what Nature Connect has shown, that it is possible that children will be healthier, smarter, and happier. In WWF, we started working on environment education over 50 years back. So yeah, it's been nearly half a century. And one of the programs, a flagship program that ran for nearly 3 decades, Nature Clubs of India, believed very strongly. At that time, there was no research, but it believed very strongly in this, that if you connect children and youth to nature, they are bound to love it. It's very simple, that you fall in love with nature. And if you love something, you will do anything to preserve it. And it's very interesting that, a very large number of leadership or people working in the field of conservation in India started their journey here. So it is so important that even to make children, work in the field of conservation, to look at careers that are towards the environment, it is very important that they are taught about nature right at an early age. In these changing times, we have felt that, especially with the pandemic and, with the way technology is booming, uh, there is an absolute nature deficit happening. While I am a big fan of technology, there is a nature deficit happening because our lives have got filled with technology. Our lives have got filled with entertainment and other activities. And therefore, this increase in nature deficit is going to lead to more problems. And it is very important as educators, and as we deliberate about this, that we bring back nature into the lives of children and into our education system. So over to Chetna to now share some interesting tools on how can we do this. What we can guarantee and what our experience guarantees, it changes the life of a child forever. So that's something our experience and belief is. So over to you, Chetna, to talk about what tools can teachers and educators use to reconnect children with nature.
Thank you, Radhika, for putting forward the thoughts about what is Nature Connect and why is it important. We believe that Nature Connect is very essential, especially at an early age, because it has the power to transform the lives of children. It has the power to transform the thought process of children. And if they are kept in touch with nature at an early age, they will grow up to become conservation leaders of tomorrow in the whatever sector of work they or the career they adopt, but they will still have nature at the back of their minds. So looking into that, there are some very easy tools, techniques that one can adopt to have to connect children with nature. It's very important to reconnect them, especially when the schools will go back to normal in hopefully in a year or two. Some of the schools have started opening. There are schools which are happening online as well. So we have to look at tools which the children can adopt or the students can adopt while they're at school or while they are in their homes as well. So the first and the most basic and something that is well known throughout the world are nature trails, or we love to call them eco trails. It's a connection that we want to, it's a small experiential learning program where a child or a student goes out in nature for 2 to 3 hours, experiences, touches, smells, actually looks at the birds and sees what all nature has to offer. And what it builds are the observation skills. It's not only a feel good factor that a nature trail provides or make them go happy, it's also teaches them to start observing the tiny species, from a little insect or the spider, or a little dragonfly flying beside them, to a big tree, or the significance of the birds that are flying. So that's how nature trails are to build. And also, why nature trails is not just about observation, it is also about building in the sense of importance of that natural area, be it urban or be it a forested area as well. There are a lot of biodiversity parks, there are wildlife sanctuaries, bird sanctuaries around our cities, and it is a must that the students are exposed to them. And it is very important that exposed with a person or a naturalist who knows about them, who can build that enthusiasm in the young minds as well. So that's how nature trails are. Second are biodiversity workshops and courses, something that has really grown over the last year, where be it on ground or be it digital, it is very important that if it's on ground, it is fantastic, because children actually can do some hands-on activities with experts, with professionals. But if you have to do it in the times like today, it is important that children are exposed to the biodiversity through online means, where they start learning while they observe as a nature as well. And it is very, very important that when they go out, they also have the background or the knowledge of the biodiversity around them. Next is transforming schools. Very, very important when we talk about school, the school backyard or the school gardens. It is important that we involve students in small activities like kitchen gardening, like herbal gardening. And it should not be just restricted to planting of the trees. It should be more about observing trees as well, trying to name or tree tagging the trees, trying to observe the birds or the biodiversity that they can see in their school backyards as well, making a biodiversity chart and noting down the little observations they observe. Some of the schools have massive backyards. Some of these schools have smaller backyards, and but the biodiversity can be found even in the smallest of the places if they want to observe. Also, we all know children learn through experiences. They learn through observation. It is important that this biodiversity is drawn around the murals of the school walls as well. They should know what is in this, and especially a more focus should be made upon the native biodiversity or the native trees, the local biodiversity. It is good to know about the polar bears and the pandas, which are very important species, but it's also important to know about the bar-headed geese or the pangolin that is found, or the otter that is found in India as well. So that's where the transforming or greening of schools is very important. Next is publications, and our publications, I don't mean like heavy field guide or books. They are publications which the children would love to read, be it in posters, be it something in form of comics, be it something an activity book, or be it even a nature journal, something that the children observe can actually bring out and write it down in their notebooks. And publications are also important because even when they do not have a naturalist or they do not have an expert, they can still read, observe, note down their observations, and actually relate. It builds, that's how they try and build the problem solving or the 21st century skills in them. And finally, one of the most important thing, and that is developing in today's era, is citizen science. And citizen science is not just restricted to students. It can involve the teachers, it can involve parents. And we believe, be it citizen science on anything, be it trees, be it dragonflies, be it on, for example, somebody did on lorises. It is very, very important that the students are involved into citizen science at a really early age. And citizen science is not just about observing. Yes, you are observing, you are noting down your data on an app. It's also builds a cadre of young scientists who are helping the scientific community directly or indirectly as well. So I think this is a very, very important tool which must be developed either by the parents or by the school administration. And citizen science does not have to be about tigers, or it always not doesn't have to be about birds. It can be about smaller species and lesser known species like dragonflies or spiders or butterflies. So it is that's where citizen science plays a very important role. And these are very simple tools that anybody can adopt, that anybody can do at their homes and in their school environments. So moving forward, I would like to invite Dr. Archana Chatterjee, Project Manager of IUCN India, to tell us about nature-based solutions, another important thing that is coming out and needs focus, and how we can adopt these nature-based solutions into the education system today. Dr. Archana, over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks to Mobius Foundation and also to WWF India for inviting IUCN to be part of this important session. I mean, the ground has been set by Dr. Suri and also Chetna, how important nature has become in our lives. I mean, we realized during lockdown how much we miss going out and into the wild and enjoying all the freedom that we used to have before pandemic struck us. So I guess for our psychological well-being, mental well-being, as well as for the well-being of our health, nature is really critical. I would like to introduce you today to IUCN, very briefly, International Union for Conservation of Nature, which is a membership union comprised of both government and civil society organizations. It has several missions which are organized into voluntary group of scientists, decision makers, policy makers, and also youth and organizations and so on. So the Commission on Education and Communication, some of you may be familiar with. Can you go to the next slide? Now coming to the IUCN's vision, which aims to influence, encourage, and assist societies throughout the world to conserve the integrity and diversity of nature. And of course, to ensure that any use of natural resources is equitable and ecologically sustainable. From the very beginning, IUCN has realized the need to focus their attention towards involving communities across the world if they have to achieve conservation on the ground. And who more important than youth? Engaging the enthusiasm and energy of youth from different communities towards conservation would deliver unique ideas and sharing of traditional knowledge. As we all know that 26% of our world population is dominated by youth, and to harness the energy of this particular age group, IUCN has developed several programs and engagement initiatives. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yes, so this is the one I was talking about, the IUCN Commission on Education and Communication. And this is the commission which is responsible for several of these interesting programs of engaging with youth and children, and also integrating it within the various IUCN programs and projects. Next, please. This is one of the important initiatives of IUCN, connecting nature and youth. And one important, in the run-up to the World Conservation Congress, many of you may be aware that IUCN organizes every 4 years the World Conservation Congress, which drives the conservation agenda across the world. And since this Conservation Congress was supposed to happen last year, due to pandemic, it was pushed to this year. And right now, as I speak, the Congress is wrapping up. It was held from 3rd, it started on 3rd September, and I was there for a few days till 7th. I just came back yesterday from the Congress, and I'll be happy to share some messages from the Congress with you, as Dr. Rambuji had asked me to. But just to let you know that in the run-up to the World Conservation Congress, IUCN organized the IUCN Global Youth Summit in April this year. So that is one of the ways of engaging youth that we are carrying on. And the other important initiative is Nature for All, which is a global movement to inspire love of nature, which really relies on personal experiences and connection with nature, which provides powerful benefits for individual and societal health. Some of it was what Chetna also talked about, some of the tools. So yeah, we are all in it together. Next, please. Just to give an idea of the Nature for All program, which has several thematic areas: youth and nature, health and nature, people and parks, urban nature, and so on, and several publications which help youth to connect with nature, experiment virtual tools, as well as several publications and online and offline tools. Next, please. Now, coming to nature-based solutions, how do we derive the benefits from nature to solve some of our pressing problems, like climate change, disaster risk reduction, food security, and local, the economic development versus conservation debates, restoration, biodiversity conservation, and so on. So IUCN has developed this portfolio of nature-based solutions, and also nature-based solution standards to help us identify that which are the real nature-based solutions and how these can be implemented on the ground. Most of these are to work with communities, to work with nature. Some of them also integrate some of the emerging technologies, which are not extractive in terms of, extractive in nature, but work with nature. Some of the examples of how IUCN is advancing nature as a solution. For example, the Bond Challenge Barometer. I don't know how many of you know that Bond Challenge is a global challenge to restore our forests and also the forest landscapes. And India has also committed 26 million hectares towards conservation under this Bond Challenge. And the Bond Challenge Barometer is a tool to measure how each country is progressing towards this, self-target that they have given to themselves. Then, of course, there are several, and if you go to our website, which is dedicated to nature-based solutions, you can see much more and contribute as well as derive information from there. Next, please. Now, coming to the Nature 2030, this is the new program that IUCN has adopted for the next, let's say, 10, 12 years, which will, we'll be working with the various issues concerning nature, the emerging challenges that we are facing in terms of climate change or biodiversity conservation, land degradation, and so on. It links to various SDGs, the biodiversity targets, the upcoming post-2020 global biodiversity framework, and so on. Next, please. Now, just touching upon the World Conservation Congress, which the World Conservation Congress, like I said, is organized every 4 years by ICSE to bring together the world community on one platform, multiple stakeholders, including the governments who are our members, to discuss the pathways that conservation should take in the coming years. So the World Conservation Congress this year is being held actually. It started on 3rd, and it comprises of 2 parts. One is the forum, where the various events are held, and the other is the members' assembly, which is exclusive for the members, and that is what is going on right now. I would like to highlight some of the takeaways, and the youth, let me stress, was a very, very important part of this conference this year, the Congress. We had Ms. Nisreen El-Sam, chair of the the Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change, which has been set up under the United Nations, speaking to us at various fora across the Congress. And basically, the takeaways from this Congress were that climate change and biodiversity, they are joined at hip, and we cannot segregate the two. We have been looking at two in silos. Climate change has a very clear goal of 1.5 degrees that we all have to achieve if we have to live comfortably. But for biodiversity, we do not have such a goal which everyone can relate to. And that is how it has, it has taken a kind of a backseat, and we have not been paying much attention to it. The testimony is that we have not achieved the biodiversity goals, the IG targets. So therefore, we have to now, from now on, look at biodiversity and climate change together. They are two faces of the same coin. And of course, we need to include youth, the indigenous communities, women, and of course, all organizations across sectors to come together if we have to achieve our goals for conservation and also climate change mitigation and adaptation. Next, please. I would now like you to hear
the last few years have not been easy. It's hard. It's hard to devote yourself to a cause that is so urgent and not be able to get the traction needed to make the change that is absolutely necessary. It's hard to read the headlines, floods, fires, famines, plagues, and tell your children that everything is all right. It's not all right. Damn it, it's not all right. We've got to make things happen. We've got to make it happen now. Come on, everybody. Let's get to work.
Thank you. That was a clip from our opening ceremony, where it was very loud and clear that we have to do it. And youth is really, really important to connect with nature and to take us all towards the new beginning, of where we learn to live with nature. Thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Archana, for taking us to the IUCN World Congress and letting us know about why nature-based solutions are so important in the current scenario. We are open to any questions and answers for this session. If you have any question and answers, our panelists will be very happy to answer them. Please do write them in the Q&A box, and we will take them forward. I think we have got a question. It's from Ms. Amrita. The question is, I think, Dr. Archana, this question will be for you. Were there any global scenarios which caught your attention when relating to addressing the climate crisis and reversing the ecosystem degradation?
Well, like I said, the main takeaway for me, I was there for 5 to 6 days, attending various sessions. The key takeaway was that climate change has something to measure, what we can look up to, 1.5 degrees. That is where we have to reach. Biodiversity, we need to develop means to measure. What is it that we want in biodiversity? What are those targets which people can relate to, scientists can relate to, the ICSE targets and the biodiversity targets. But what is it that people can relate to? The businesses can relate to, where the real change needs to happen, the behavioral change and the practices that need to be changed by the private sector in terms of their production processes and all, where biodiversity is not harmed. So I think that was the key takeaway for me. And of course, there was a lot of talk about the way, disasters have struck the whole world. And I guess the important thing was that the Western world has also woken up to these disasters this year. And there was a lot of talk about how the personalization of these disasters have really made people wake up, in addition to the pandemic, how important it is for us to conserve nature and also link to the issue of climate change and not see it as separate issues. Thank you. I hope that answers the question.
I think we don't have any other questions, so we will be ending this session for Nature Connect and Informal Education here. Thank you everybody for joining us and listening to us. Thank you Mobius Foundation, and thank you to Dr. Anshana from ICSE in India for joining us for this session.
Thank you everyone.
Yes, thank you and happy nature connecting. Do get in touch with us if you have any other issues or if you want to do further actions with us as well. Thank you, bye.
Thank you everyone.